Hello, and welcome to the second part of this video series. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on this week, and basically kind of an overview of how I got here. So this might be a little bit of a long-winded video, so we'll see where it goes. I've tried to keep myself as busy as I can this week. We've done a lot of unpacking. We're all still getting used to this new house and everything. And writing in this journal has been a little bit difficult for me. Essentially, it's been really hard to be unhealthy while writing in this journal. Normally, I can just be unhealthy just fine on my own. I can do great about that. But then whenever I have to write down in my journal, hey, I had this much stuff from Chicken Express. I had 10 chicken strips, a bunch of gravy, 2 biscuits, all sorts of things. It's easy to just go ahead and say that I did all that kind of stuff. But whenever I have to write it down and whenever I have to give it to my doctor to look at it, it's tough. And it sucks because this is something that, normally if I'm, drinking copious amounts of alcohol or something like that, I would normally eat that. It's a little bit eye-opening. It's hard to avoid eating healthy now while writing in this, and now I've got my doctor telling me, hey, don't change your diet plan, we want to know what you eat and how you do everything. And now I'm looking at it thinking, oh god, yeah, that's exactly what's wrong with it, that's exactly why I'm this way. Feels like since I can't change my standard diet that I have just full permission to go all out on this list. Essentially, since, I have to eat bad, it's like I better eat as bad as possible. And I keep having the same mentality that I always tend to get, which is, well, gonna be healthy next week. I might as well just, eat as much bad shit as possible. And I keep having that happen over and over again. But aside from that, I've had a pretty good week thus far, and we're going to have a pretty great weekend with family coming out and everything. It's going to be fun. What I mainly wanted to talk about in this video is just how I got to where I'm at, how I got to be 356 pounds. The furthest back I can remember, at some point when I was maybe about 8 years old, still living in Germany, I'd started getting an allowance, and with that allowance, normally I would go out, buy official PlayStation magazines, or I would, save up and get a video game or something like that. And eventually I learned I could just walk over to the shopette and buy chips, buy soda or candy or something like that. Chips somehow became like this big magical thing, like I would always eat it all the time. That's what I did. I would take my $15 a week and I would walk over to the store, just buy food all the time, and never really realizing that it caught up to me. And it's kind of weird to think about that right now, too. The fact that I would treasure bad food and stupid things from the shopette more than I would actually buying video games and toys and stuff that, one, I was way into back then, and two, I am way into right now. But I knew at some point that I was getting really fat. Or not really fat, but I was definitely overweight. Within a year or two of starting this walking over to the shopette and eating everything I could possibly see cycle. So that sort of continued on. I ended up moving to the US with my family, and we eventually ended up being here in Lawton, Oklahoma. My diet kind of continued the same way. Anytime that I had money, I would usually spend it on food. Occasionally I'd buy a video game or something cool. But a lot of the time, my money would end up going to food. And I think the heaviest that I ended up being before graduating high school was at about 280 pounds, which I thought was gigantic. And honestly, it's still very, very big. 280 is not a good weight to be at. I was still staying kind of active. I played DDR a lot through the end of junior high and through a good chunk of high school. And all throughout high school, I was doing marching band, I was doing show choir, I was doing stage shows. So I was doing stuff to keep myself kind of active. Not to mention the fact that, until the age of 17, I didn't have a car, so I was still walking a lot of places. It's really weird to think back then that I walked so much. I walked all over town, like maybe a mile or two a day, just because that's how I got around. I would never really get super winded or super tired or unable to do it. I would just get really sweaty. And it's really surprising to me that I never really got made fun of a lot through high school for it.